I filled that in with some lightweight epoxy. Um, it's like Bondo, but epoxy filler. And cotton floxed some holes that were here on this trailing edge, like Don is doing on his. Some cotton flocks down here. This was pre-existing Bondo. Not super happy about Bondo in there. Would have liked to see the epoxy filler in there, like there. There's also a hole right here. Epoxy filled that hole. Okay, get to the back, the tail wheel. I like what Chuck did with this tail wheel. It's got a lock, a center lock. He used a wheel similar to Dino Don's wheel, and I like it. It's very smooth when you taxi it around. But what I had to do to this, so a perfect castering, like a grocery cart that's working perfectly, this will be perfectly parallel to the floor with no slop. And there's, it's debatable, plenty of debates about which way it needs to sit, but it used to be sitting at a very steep angle so that anytime you sat the airplane on the ground, it would default to this position. So when you try and taxi it forward, then you come to a stop, the airplane would swivel off to one side and try to go back to this position. Ground's uneven here, so you can't really tell. Sorry about that. Okay, so I took the spring out, refabricated the spring, changed the spring angle, so now it's ever so slightly tilted back from level. So it has really good trailing characteristics. And you can see this is different than the plans. It's got a lock here, so you can, once the tail wheel centers, you can lock it, and that's controlled from up in the cockpit. Let's see. You may or may not have seen this already, but it's got in the tail cone, Chuck had installed a flasher unit. So this is, well, I'm not going to put it in now, but the good thing is I already have a tail light ready. And that's pretty handy with the flasher. So all I need to do, I've started bringing some wires out to for the nav lights. So I got nav, I labeled this one nav positive, and like I pointed out, I'm working on the negative bus down at the bottom under the floor. And that brings us to the wings. So the wings, Chuck decided he's going to go with the 20mm cannons, which I guess at half scale makes them 10mm cannons. Pretty impressive. He'd also set up, and with underneath each wing has pods for the I guess pretend missiles, because obviously we're not going to really put missiles on it. Pods for the missiles, but they were the aluminum here that you see stuck out about there. It had this big aerodynamic, well, kind of semi-aerodynamic shape around it, kind of a fairing, but really big. And to me, it just seemed like it took too much of the aerodynamics away, so I wound up cutting all those off and epoxy filled the gap, and yeah, so I think it's going to have a lot better aerodynamic shape. We're already messing up with the aerodynamic shapes with things like the guns, so I just wanted to absolutely minimize these. So this is all that I'm going to have. Still still there in case I wanted to mount, you know, missiles on the bottom of the wings, which is kind of silly. Anyway, not real missiles. Okay, other thing I had to do, you know, he already had this installed, so I wound up buying a piece of tubing on Amazon, shaped the end of it, tapped the end of it, and so now I have a pitot tube. So they couldn't, his wife, Judy, I think it's Judy, is that right? Judy couldn't find the pitot tube. So there's that. So doing a lot of work. Some more paint that needs to be done here. There were some areas that were really thin and were poking through, like you could flex the fiberglass just in these spots because they'd been, I don't know, maybe they were sticking out too much, but sanding them down they started to get weak. So I did that epoxy fill in there. Yeah, that's about it from what I can remember, and this is already super duper long. I've requested an FAA registration number. Obviously I still need to bolt this together, but I haven't got that yet. So that is the current status. I've requested a number and reserved a number, and I'm waiting for that back, and then as soon as I get that, I'll submit all the paperwork to get the airworthiness certificate going, and I think I'm a stone's throw away of getting it inspected. All right, any questions? Let me know. See you next time. Bye.